All right, so I'm here to talk about the 12-factor app. Quick show of hands if you've heard of this. Okay, good. So I think this is applicable to a couple of audiences. What I want to do is kind of distill this down, especially for those who are not familiar with the app. So why would you care, right? Perhaps you're a manager who's been tasked with moving a bunch of applications to the cloud, or a developer on the receiving end of the same sort of request. And so the 12-factor app gives you this, it's essentially a pamphlet or a book online at 12factor.net, and it gives you kind of a checklist for all the things that your app has to do to essentially be cloud ready. So here's the 12 factors, and I'm not going to explain all 12 in the remaining few minutes I have, but I was hoping to kind of distill them down so you can understand what's there and then go out and use this resource. So we'll click over to this analogy of pets versus livestock. And I think we've heard some version of this before mostly, but just to very quickly recap, pets are great. We love them. They have a name. They like to be treated in a certain way, and that's great. But that's horrible for servers because you generally don't want to kill your pets. Now, for those of you with dogs, cats, ferrets, whatever at home, please be kind to them. But when it comes to applications and servers, you need to start thinking about them more like livestock. So livestock are very much bred for a purpose. You give them a number, not a name. They are bred to be raised easily, and they're engineered, essentially. They've been engineered over generations to behave a certain way and to serve a purpose. And if they don't serve their primary purpose of, say, producing wool, then maybe they serve another purpose like, I don't know, mutton or something. So, so how does this relate, back to applications and infrastructure? As we move to the cloud paradigm, there's a few false assumptions that you can no longer build apps around. Like, I know where my server is, or it's going to be there tomorrow or an hour from now. So back to the factors. If we just boil these down to a few key elements, the first has to do with being able to easily raise or stand up that application. So you need to be able to set it up from the code base, essentially from scratch, without special incantations or tribal knowledge. It has to be able to be brought up from the code base. Second, and kind of the opposite, is that you have to be able to gracefully kill the application. And this can be done for a number of reasons, from routine maintenance or scaling up and down. But the key is that it has to happen gracefully. Kind of combining both of those in a way is the application must be built to scale. So in addition to the easy up, easy down, it also has to be able to run in parallel and handle multiple instances of the app running together. And then lastly, there's a bit of plumbing of how your application interfaces with its infrastructure that are kind of just how the cloud works, how these sorts of infrastructures work. And so those 12 factors kind of give you the recipe to do that. Okay, so let's go back to animals, but this time wild animals. So there's Werner Herzog, who's on the screen here. If you haven't come across him before, he has a lot of great depressing quotes from his films. So one of them is, I believe the common denominator of the universe is not harmony, but chaos, hostility, and murder. So hopefully that brightens your day. But the greater point is that it's a scary world out there, and your applications are going to live, in the internet and face all kinds of awful things. But you don't want your applications to merely survive and get by. You want your applications to thrive in that environment. So that's what essentially this gives you that kind of set of principles for pretty low-level technical principles to go forth and do so. So the 12-factor app is at 12factor.net, so you can go read it. It's not that long, but it's a pretty useful checklist for developers, and more info is there, including my contact info. So thank you.